All right, this week on The Big Show, we continue our spotlight of National Book Month as we discuss Matt Ruff's dark fantasy horror novel, Lovecraft Country. We welcome back frequent show contributors Sherin, Nicole, and Julian Lytle to discuss the novel and the incredibly successful HBO limited series, which wraps its season tomorrow night. In addition, Wilson Morales will join us to recap the week in entertainment. We'll have all that and more on episode 421 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, welcome to the latest edition of The Big Show, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. I am joined by our co-host, Charles Kirkland. Charles, how are you?
I'm doing great. This is a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And we're also in the middle of Middleburg week right now. So I've seen 5 films at the festival, including the opening night film, Nomadland, which I'm not saying it's going to win Best Picture this year. It's going to get nominated for sure. And Frances McDormand, and who stars in the film, we'll have a review of that. I'm not sure if it'll be on this show or if I'm going to do it independently, but I definitely will review Nomadland for our site coming up a little later on. Also, we're going to talk Lovecraft Country. Cannot wait for tomorrow night's season finale, which I think might be series finale, but they're leaving the door open. So I'm sure Wilson Morales, who is on with us, will talk about that momentarily. But before we get to Wilson, who we should have put back in the waiting room, matter of fact, get off my screen, Wilson. Go back in the waiting room, man. I'll bring you back. So before we get on to Wilson, Charles, we're not going to talk about the Middleburg Film Fest in detail now. How many films have you seen from the festival right now?
4 films.
Seen 4. So what 4 have you seen?
I've seen Concrete Cowboy, Sylvie's Love, I Am Greta, The Perfect Candidate.
All right, I've seen Nomadland, Life Spirit, Concrete Cowboy, MLK, FBI.
Well, I forgot I saw that one too.
Okay, so you've seen 5. So, all right, so we've seen enough. So far, the consensus for our audience, and I know it doesn't come out until Christmas, you have got to run to the theater when Sylvie's Love comes out. Tessa Thompson, how do you pronounce his name? Nnamdi Asomugha are absolutely radiant in this film, and it's something, somebody brought up the photograph earlier as a love story earlier. If you remember that, this is a love story that's set in the late 50s, early 1960s up in Harlem. Thompson and Asomugha are electric. The costumes are off the chain. The music of the time period is brilliant. The cinematography, I love this film. I was just telling you, Charles, I was a part of a panel at the Middleburg Film Fest, and I'm the black guy, so I watch movies. But I had to get a plug in for Sylvie's Love. I thought that was pretty special.
I thought we weren't reviewing movies now.
You're not reviewing movies now. I'm talking about it. I didn't give a review because I can go much more in detail with the movie. This is just kind of like what I like. And also Concrete Cowboys. My God, man. I like that movie a lot as well.
Jarrell Jerome is really putting together a stellar career here. I know you haven't seen When They See Us, but the work he did in that movie and then the work that he does in Concrete Cowboy, he's an up-and-coming superstar.
Cool. All right, man. So that's enough of that. You and I are going to get together either later today, and we'll have some new content on our YouTube page around the Middleburg Film Fest. We're on to do that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So without any further ado, let's bring back our brother that I like to call the critic, the curtain critic, Wilson Morales from blackfilm.com. There is our curtain critic. The curtain critic would be even more on point if he moved the camera a little bit so that the whole background was the curtain. Because right now you got a little wall with your curtain. Never mind. So what's going on this week in entertainment, Brother Wilson?
Not much, look at you. Pushing it up. We've got a number of stuff that's in theaters, that's playing on demand. One of them is a documentary called Time, which is directed by Garrett Bradley, that won her an award over at Sundance. It's a good story. We also have a movie that's playing independently called Don't Look Back, directed by Jeffrey Reddick, making his directorial debut. What's interesting is that Jeffrey's a black man who created the Final Destination franchise. You know, and I did not know that that franchise was created by, I guess, a black man, an African American man. Huh?
You didn't know that?
I guess not. You know, and
I didn't know either, man. But I'm just messing with you. I didn't know either.
The reason he said he got behind the camera for the first time is because he wanted to be more in control. Even though you create a franchise or a series, you know, when you make the first film, you don't know that they're going to make 2, 3, or 4. You know, it just became that successful, and so. You know, he put that film together, and it was important for him to cast a black female actress in his lead. He talked about the politics, about, you know, this business, and, you know, a lot of people don't look at actors of color when it comes to lead roles. You know, you've got a number of things that's there. You know, number one film of the week was The War with Grandpa, Robert De Niro movie that was produced by
a young black kid, yes.
You know, well, actually, it was his pitch, but his father's the producer, but the entire family are all producers of this movie.
Right. So basically, what you're telling me is that what's her name from Blackish? Marsai Martin, who's 14, is a year younger than this kid. So yeah, he's not the youngest producer, man. Damn, this movie's 2 years too late. But go ahead.
Well, sometimes when you put together a pitch, you know, you'll get credit, you know, but I don't want to play semantics there. Nevertheless, it's a good film. They're all involved in it, you know. That's where we're at right now. I think, you know, you're getting a lot more studios saying that movies are now going to streaming services, hence Paramount selling its franchise coming to America to Amazon.
125 million, man. What is going on? 125.
Like, because they know it's a franchise that practically the whole cast from the original film is coming back, you know, and what it could have possibly would have made in theaters, you know, but you know, a lot of these movies that will bring in an audience as opposed to just 2 people. There's no theaters right now. You know, we're in the fall season. You know, some places cases are rising up. You know, I heard news today that New York City, the theaters outside of New York City or outside of Manhattan, I haven't read the straight details yet, can probably open up starting next week.
Wilson's back in the theaters. No.
I don't know. You know, it's like, why would you open them back up? You've gone this far with every other studio moving their big release to next year. Why would you go to the theaters now? You know, it's like, what's there? You know, most of these theater owners want the big product to drive in that audience.
Right.
You know, you're not going to go in there to see a small film. It's going to take a lot of marketing just for an audience to know that's there. And theaters have not even, I haven't seen one theater talk about what safety measures they've done to prevent, you know, the spread. You saw what happened with at the White House, and they were outside. You know, they were outside.
I've been telling you for months, Wilson. The thing that I think would be the death knell of theaters is when that story comes out, Charles, and it says, "Man, I was watching a movie and I caught COVID-19 in the theater." It's a wrap, man, because people are already skittish and they're like Wilson, they don't want to go. Wilson, are you telling me you haven't been to a movie in a theater since February? You're not curious about trying to go back to just watch Tenet in the theater at this point?
You know, as a critic, as somebody who's always wanting to see a movie, there's a big level of anxiety before that movie comes out, you know, and so you want to see it right then, right now, before it comes out. Once it's out, and the longer it goes, you don't go see it, the anxiety dies.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't want to see it now. It's like, I don't care. It's like, you want to see it. It's like when you hear somebody, it's like when people who have a fixation for sneakers and they stand online for 24 hours waiting for that shoe store to open, for Foot Locker to open up. Or back in the day when you knew that CDs and record players will come out every Tuesday,
Right.
and you're standing online Monday night to try to buy it at midnight. You know,
Well, I've been one of the proponents when Tenet was coming out. I said I was going to go to a theater. I wanted to go see it. Well, if they gave us a screener, I'd go see it. It came, it went. I still haven't seen it. I'm like you. I don't care now.
yeah, think about it. It's been probably over a month, and it hasn't cracked 100 million.
And
You
it
know?
won't crack 100 million. Well,
It's so that's a movie that would have made 100 million opening weekend, maybe this definitely by the second weekend.
right.
Right.
We're a month in plus, and that movie I wouldn't say it's DOA. You know, it's doing well. It's doing modestly, modestly, I guess, overseas.
Right.
But if you've made 350 overall, look how much you've left on the table when you include the fact that you have no theaters open in New York or LA, you know, and whatever's open is operating under 50% capacity.
I think honestly, Wilson, they left $500 million on the table. $500 million, because that's counting what it would have made domestically as well as internationally. I think, you know, if we didn't have a pandemic to deal with, it would have gotten a larger share. But my question for you is a question I had. Me and Travis had a conversation at opening night at Middleburg a couple of days ago. And we were talking about the announcement this week, Wilson, and I know you saw that Disney is now shifting its operations from doing these major studio releases and these blockbusters in the theaters to now trying to shift more of their content on to Disney Plus. And I told Travis, I said, you know, up until this point, they've resisted messing with their three tenets, right? You know, there's no MCU films, no Marvel films, no Pixar films, and no Lucas films that they put on that platform. I said, if Disney, when the moment comes that there's an announcement, Wilson, that one of those three films is hitting Disney Plus, I said, it's going to be a problem, because Disney is the leader in the room. So whatever Disney is doing, everybody else is going to try to follow suit. If Disney puts a Marvel movie on Disney Plus and they price it at $29, $39 or whatever, and people buy it, it's going to be a hard time, because Disney right now has had success both with Hamilton and Mulan, because they don't have to pay any overhead. There's no theater to pay, no any money to cut. They don't have to spend additional money to market it because they got an in-house team. If Disney is successful in doing this, it's going to be hard to get Disney to put those movies back in theaters. And it's going to be a while before, as you said earlier, people are comfortable to come back to theaters. So what are you thinking about Disney's decision this week?
Here's the thing, you know, Kevin Feige is the president of Marvel, and Marvel is an entity of Disney. Right. So, you know, Marvel's made a gazillion dollars, you know, putting their movies. They know every product they have has the potential of making $1 billion. Unless Disney's putting that stuff out publicly that they're making $1 billion online, you know, through their Disney Plus services, you're weighed out, you know. And I guess, you know, to Marvel's benefit, you know, that COVID happened this year and not last year when they still had their juggernaut films out. You know, you're playing with house money now, because you've got the externals that no one really knows about. You've got Black Widow, which is like, okay, it's Scarlett Johansson, but it's not Iron Man, it's not Spider-Man. You know, like, you've known of those individuals before the Avengers, you know. So they're playing with house money now. The Hamilton and Mulan are family films in which you can't go to the theaters, because those movies, and including Soul, which is going to come out on Disney Plus, that movie itself would bring in an average of 3 people when you're talking about parents and their kids. And since you can't do that in theaters, Disney does not want to leave so much money on the table, because parents and kids are not going to go to the theaters not wanting to catch it. You know, we don't know what the status is come December. And so they got to make a move now and not wait to the last minute to start promoting, oh, it's going to be on Disney Plus, it's going to be on Disney Plus, and people looking forward to it. But you're right, it's like, you know, I've already heard grumblings from overseas about how pissed off that they are that Soul is going to go to Disney Plus, because as you mentioned, you know, they run the industry overseas. And all those theaters say they need so long as it has a Disney stamp or a Marvel stamp, you know, overseas is not as bad as the United States, where people will flock to see it. You know, so and I don't think Disney Plus or let's say Netflix, they're not everywhere overseas. You know, so I don't think Disney Plus is in China yet. I'm not sure.
Right.
You know, so like those people are like, we need these movies in theaters. You know, because those theaters like we don't want to be in the same position that these United States theaters are in. You know, we're doing okay. We're not doing fantastic, but we're doing okay compared to them. That they're on the verge of bankruptcy and all that stuff. You know, so it's a tough call. You know, I think what hasn't been moved yet is Wonder Woman.
Oh, it's moving.
Oh, yeah.
It's moving. Wait for it. We'll be talking next week. Yeah, they moved Wonder Woman this week.
Yeah. Well, that will be put like this. It will be a shock. And all of a sudden, Warner Brothers says, we're going to put it on HBO Max.
Oh, that's not a shock. That feels like an inevitability right now.
You know, it's like, here's a movie that made over $800 million.
Yeah. Or you can push it back one more time. I mean, I think selling it, putting it on HBO Max is kind of like a last resort. If you push the movies back, push it back again.
Problem is that like there's hardly any space in 2021. Like it's gonna be a battle royal every week. You know, somebody's gonna. It's like the summer season when all these movies come out 1 week after the other.
Right.
And which is the movie that's not gonna do as well as it was anticipated.
Right.
You know, and which is gonna be the surprise movie. You know, so it's a cluster. The scary thing is that like there's independent films. They're gonna be the ones that are not gonna get theatrical distribution. They're gonna have to work harder to get a deal to play at the right home for people to see it. You know, if you know everybody wants to go to Netflix because right now of the streaming channels, they're the ones with the biggest audience.
Yeah.
You know, and then everybody else is kind of catching up. Apple, Hulu, you know, Amazon. You know, Amazon's got a number of films, but they don't have the big budget films. But Jeff Bezos, he's trying to create a big name for himself. Like, let me tackle this and see how it plays out. In the same way that Netflix did when they started out. They had a few films, got some attention. Within 5 years, they're just like, okay, we're in control until we win the Best Picture Oscar. We're in control. And they've changed the narrative with their product. It's not about how much money it made. Before, films would get recognized. Like a movie like First Man, had it played on Netflix, it probably would have been a better reception. But when it came out and it didn't do the numbers that it did, it was kind of DOA. Sometimes when, big budgeted movies by big directors come out, there's this anticipation like, oh, it's going to do well at the box office. But when it doesn't, and that's the story, like, oh, it did 30% from last week or whatever, then you're like, I'll catch it some other time. On Netflix, movie like The Chicago 7, you're seeing it because of the critical responses, not because of the box office news.
All right, Wilson. Well, we got to run, man, because we're doing our National Book Month stuff. But always, brother, always wonderful to have you on. Tell people where they can read your content, man. Follow you online. You
can read me over at blackfilmandtv.com with the same words you use for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All right, brother. Enjoy your week. Stay safe, man. And we're going to get up with you next week, man. All right. Take care. All right. And of course, that is Wilson Morales, who joins us at the top of each show. And he kind of gives us the rundown and recap on entertainment. But right now, I want to bring in both of our panelists who I wanted to talk about Lovecraft Country, the book by Matt Ruff. And in both cases, I think we got one on video. Where is Sherin? Because Sherin, you are not going to do this whole interview with a picture. You are not going to do this with a picture. We got to see you this week because this is live for our YouTube audience. Sherin, are you there?
You can enjoy your imagination.
Sherin, don't do it. Don't, Sherin, come on now.
Wait a minute.
Really?
Hold on.
Really, Sherin? If you were going to put a picture up, at least the picture should have been larger than a little small. Really? Oh my God, man! I cannot wait to call
I'm
you
going
after we
anonymous,
get
too.
done.
All you're gonna get is my name. How's that?
Okay, I'm gonna wait until y'all, cause we got a show. We live right now, so y'all are both acting out. Charles, you know better. Don't be Sherin. Sherin is trying to be special. Sherin,
Sherin
Yeah.
is special, but hey, come on.
There is no video available today.
2020.
all right.
Well, what?
And you have the fog. There you go. The fog.
That's what you pull. What, it's always got to be one in the tribe that just wants to go against the grain, man. Just all the time, man.
Well, Tim, the one thing I wanted to talk before we got started was, we got these theaters that are dying. Theaters are dying because they can't get anything in the theaters. And so when Disney said that they're going to put Soul on their streaming service, theater owners are crapping the bed because they were hoping that they were going to get something out before the end of the year that would draw people to the theaters so that they could make some money. So Disney is really killing the game.
Let me tell you something, man. I hate to be the I told you so dude. I told you in March. How many months have you heard me say the same thing? And I'm actually right. I told you in March when this started that there would be no more screenings for 2020. I said that in March. The only reason why I'm actually dragged back to a theater is because I got a chance to see Tenet. But man, nobody has an appetite right now.
Nobody dragged you back.
They dragged. Oh, trust me. But okay, I'm gonna say something publicly because you trying to put me on blast. When I said they dragged me, I had to do it for around town. So I couldn't lie and tell a studio I didn't see the movie or I saw the movie when they only had invited 7 people to go. So yeah, they dragged me because I got a check in order to review the movie. So you want to try to make it jokey? It ain't jokey because I had no inclination, and neither does Julian, the fog down at the bottom of our screen, or you to go back to a movie theater at any point. And this, and I'm gonna end this.
You have a lot of anger all up in
I do have a lot of anger because I'm tired of people.
Tight chest.
No, but I'm just saying I'm tired of people.
John David Washington did not come to your house and force you to go to the theater.
Let me finish my point. My point is that this
Christopher Nolan was like, I shall not screen this without Tim.
Oh my God, man. Let me just mute you. I need to make a point. And I'm like, dang, can I finish my point, please? The point
no chairs and no Tim.
This may be the last appearance of Sherin Nicole.
Sherin thinks we on the conference call. We're doing a live show. I'm trying to make a point. So this ludicrous argument that they're pushing all these movies to next year is not going to have any theaters either. So all this action and all this movement about we moving movies here, we moving movies there, it's all stupid because even if they opened all the theaters as of next week, nobody's going. So nobody's going without a vaccine. So you can tell me that this movie's opening in May and this movie's opening in February. Nobody's going. Nobody's going for a minute. Now, people will return to theaters eventually. It might be in 2 years, but it won't be next year. So all of this, I just get tired of it every week of listening to Wilson tell us, man, well, Wonder Woman is still on the schedule. Wonder Woman's moving. And trust me, Wonder Woman will move by the end of next week. So we'll be talking next week about, hey, man, you heard about Wonder Woman, right? So there's nothing else.
All I care about is Doom.
Oh, that's moving too.
It already moved.
Oh, I thought it's already moved.
No, that's my point. Everything is moving, man. Nothing is going to be in theaters. But that is not why I brought both these amazing individuals who I love dearly, including Sherin, who from now on, before we invite her on the show, we're going to have her sign a "You Must Appear on Screen" waiver because this is ridiculous, man. Anyway.
I think that it's delightful. And also, this is what happens when you turn your beauty filter all the way up to gorgeous. You get this.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from Adobe Radio, it is the fog, Sherin Nicole. And
I am the mist. Call me Mystique.
Okay. Mystique is with us today. and Julian Lytle, who joins us again. Julian was with us a couple of weeks ago on probably the most popular show we did. Julian, we got numbers through the roof talking about the Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time. They loved you guys. Huh?
Music is still important. You ain't got to go nowhere.
Yeah, man. So that
That's
was a
right.
good one, man. So
music joins people, and so does Adobe Radio.
So here we go, people. Lovecraft Country, man. I reached out to Sherin all week because I was like, we got to talk about this. And, I've watched it for 9 weeks, and I decided that the way we would tackle this today is instead of trying to do it episode by episode, I wanted us to spotlight the characters. And if we talked about each individual character, then those episodes that they've been in that have been impactful, I think it would be easier to kind of digest it in that way. So Sherin, I'll start with you by saying, give me your impressions before and up until this point of what you feel about what Lovecraft Country is and what Misha Green and her talented team have been able to accomplish.
I should say that there will be no spoilers. However, Julian and I have seen the finale.
No, that doesn't do anything for me because, like I said, I wouldn't even want to see it. I would want to see the finale with everybody at the same time. I wouldn't want to see the finale early.
Julian
I can preview the first 9.
Everybody, we just care about us.
All right, well,
okay, go ahead. I would have liked to see the
finale early.
Yeah, I want to see the finale, whether it's
well,
early.
We had to do preview coverage, so you can't preview after the fact. That would deny the pre. But what I think about Lovecraft Country up into the end of episode 9, what I think about the series as a whole and what's happened with it.
Again, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's Saturday. Here's the thing. I think that what they've done with Lovecraft Country is a very, very smart thing. This idea of taking 2 different kinds of horror, which is the actual horror that we know, which is blood and some of the occult, but also the horror that is American history, and combining those 2 things, which we know Matt Ruff has done in his book and that Misha Green has translated to the screen. And then on top of that, they threw in a little bit of revenge porn. But what is the light of the series is, of course, the beauty and the joy of Black history despite everything else. So what you get is this very beautiful, multi-layered, I wouldn't say beautiful. What you get is this very enriched, multi-layered series that talks about the Black American condition throughout time, because you also have these very anachronistic moments where we're hearing voices that are from the future from the standpoint of the show. And then they throw in Afronauts and Afrofuturism, which gives us this idea that what is missing from a lot of Black entertainment is this idea of a future and this setting that moves beyond racism to become aspirational. And so what they're doing in large part with the Hippolyta character or Hippolyta character, and with the D character is Diana, who we all know are Wonder Woman and her mother, if you're a DC Comics fan, is to give us something to look forward to that time can change. So that's what I think about Lovecraft Country.
And the same question for you, Mr. Lytle.
I think it does a great job of bringing together horror and the anthology series. I remember growing up and watching television shows like Dracula the series or Tales from the Dark Side and The Outer Limits, and sometimes shows that has like a cast of characters that each week they go through a different type of adventure. I like how it brings all these genres and adventure genres and horror genres that was kind of distanced from the Black experience together in a show to give an audience something they're not used to getting, they didn't know they wanted to get, and just playing with all these things as Sherin said, with the Black experience, history, racism, all these things come together to come out with just like a beautiful menagerie of television that we didn't really expect to get, especially in this whack year of 2020. Like I have no plans to read the book because I don't know if the book can match up to what the show did visually and sonically. There's a lot of things at play here, you know, referencing Gordon Parks or Baldwin things, all these type of things that I don't even think a prose version of the story could do or could think to do. It's the remix, like personified.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was thinking about this morning when I think about the history of television and the history of films. And, you know, you think back to, I would say, I would go back to Get Out, you know, because we'd always had messages and, you know, as it relates to race and trying to mix them, but never in a sci-fi sort of a vein. You know, you think about what Spike Lee's career has been and what Spike has done with a series of films, these New York-based stories that talk about race. But it wasn't until, in my estimation, Jordan Peele came along with Get Out that he displayed how you could use our race and the horror and the everyday horror and what that could be. And then you look at, you know, what HBO did last year with The Watchmen and using, you know, similar ground, not necessarily to Get Out, but similar ground that has been mined in Lovecraft Country in order to kind of to show the horror and kind of a sci-fi aspect. But then Misha Green, Jordan Peele, and J.J. Abrams and the rest of the team of producers have taken it to the next level with Lovecraft Country. I would look at anybody. Does anybody have an answer? Is the expansion that we're looking at from 2017 to now over the last 3 years? Where could this genre go? How much further can we actually extend what we're watching? Can somebody else come along and take an element out of what we're watching and kind of expand this even more?
We still haven't seen real Afrofuturism yet.
Right.
And we still haven't gotten to Black adventure serial. So I think some of the stuff the show does is that it's shown us different possibilities that people have thought of it, but no one's really thought about on a mainstream scale. Like a lot of people never really thought about, like, yeah, you can have a Black Indiana Jones. Like you can do that. You can do the adventure serials. You can do like Tarzan-like movies, but without Tarzan, but with actually the Africans in the story. You can do like cyberpunk stories with Black people, with like no white people at all. And I think it's expanding the imagination that I think more that even what Get Out did, because Get Out is still very normal in terms of, you know, of the way in which our world works. It's almost like it's taking a conspiracy and turning it on its ear. Things like Lovecraft Country is literally like doing things like if you're a character like Tick that read or know of these stories, the John Carters of Mars and all these type of things, like at a lot of point you have to reimagine the story with yourself or fall into comic books and then seeing eventually they'll get around to a Black version of a character doing some of these feats. And for a lot of people, since that hasn't made it to the movie yet, it hasn't made it to the video game space yet, seeing this show, having these people, especially Misha Green, put this on display is probably widening a lot of people's imaginations for what they want. Since a lot of things they've been getting are, yes, things like Spike Lee, doing things we really know. We know Brooklyn. We know LA. We know Compton. We know Atlanta. We know Houston. We know regular degular things. But not a lot of people know about, like, yo, man, I'm trying to go to another dimension. I'm trying to do Interstellar, but with, like, no Matthew McConaughey.
You know, one of the things that's happening now is you're getting adaptations of Octavia Butler. So we're getting a Xenogenesis or Lilith's Brood adaptation, which is Black folks in space dealing with really hard sci-fi themes. So you've got that happening with Vic Mahoney and Charles D. King and Ava DuVernay. And then you've got Nnedi Okorafor and George R.R. Martin, who are doing some of Nnedi's work, which is also Afrofuturism, and also like this kind of blend, these really big fantasy epic worlds. And we've got a few other things coming. So those things are starting to happen,
Right.
I think, because there's this realization that, again, that Black trauma is not the only genre we understand, or,
Right.
you know, Black slapstick, but that we can have a full range of storytelling that prominently features or wholly features Black characters from the full diaspora. So we are seeing some things on the way. We've seen a few things in the past. There's a lot of really amazing short stories that have been done, but they just don't make it to the mainstream. And so people aren't getting to see them, but the content is there, and hopefully it will continue to be there on a larger scale.
So are we talking about Atticus and Letty, and George and Ruby? I mean, it has just been, to me, it is something that I've never seen before, where they kind of laid Lovecraft out. How well do you think, if they extend this show an additional season and they have to go what I call the Game of Thrones route, where you just start making stuff up that's not a part of the book, would that take away from the show if we didn't have the book as source material moving forward?
There's no way to tell. It's like you have to wait until you see where the writer's room is going to take it. Because there are writers' rooms that have improved on the original. Like you could talk about Damon Lindelof's team on Watchmen, and the improvements that they made on the original. And the original Watchmen is very good, but it has a lot of problems. So they could turn it into something even greater. And there's a lot of material there because there's so much mythology in so many cultures outside of European culture. So it depends on that writer's room. But from what we've seen of that writer's room, I imagine they've got a whole lot more to give us.
Julian?
Yeah, if the book is like the show, it is using tropes and genre as a conversation between those things, with using race and like mid 20th century race, and flipping the idea of Lovecraft, who is a known racist.
Raving.
Like, if you're just taking our whole idea of the pulps and genre science fiction, you can just, using the title, just move into his peers in those genres. Like, we can do a Black War of the Worlds. Like, they can still go to Mars. Like, you can't give me that shot of, even though Tick was dreaming of, imagining himself, the Princess of Mars, but no, y'all can go to Mars. They got a whole nine-tailed fox in this show. There's a whole bunch of stuff in East Asian culture that is, for a lot of people, are used to it. A lot of younger viewers are used to it because there's so many young Black folks who've grown up on anime, and you start bringing it like nine-tailed foxes, they are like, yeah, we know what that is. Like, Naruto was on for 10 years.
Yeah, you could even have the Gamios versus the Kitsunes, because the Kitsunes are Japanese, the Gamios are Korean. But even if you stick to South Korean or Korea, you've got the Kebes and all of these other types of mythology. You've got all of this stuff that's seeped into, you've got the Orishas and the Loa and the Jumbies, all of this blended into Black American culture. So like Julian said, there's so much richness. You've got all of these chapters, which is what each kind of episode of Lovecraft Country is, like Julian was saying, is based on a pulp fiction, not to be confused with, the movie from Tarantino, but a different pulp genre. And so you do have your Bradburys, and you do have, your Jules Verne's, and you have you have your Arthur Conan Doyle's. So you have all of that you can like flip, but you also have your Samuel R. Delaney's and your Octavia Butlers, and even your W.E.B. Du Bois, who also wrote science fiction. So this is like, there are no places that they have to stop. as a matter of fact, there's only places to go. And with their knowledge of history and of speculative fiction and of the occult, I mean, they blended in some stuff from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with the strange case.
Yeah.
What can stop them? We got hundreds of years of literature to just dig into.
So let me just ask you a question, and without any spoilers, open-ended or ending in episode 10 with the season?
Listen, I'm in the spycraft. I ain't telling you nothing.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, man, because again, you know, they keep saying season 1, and what I was reading earlier this week, if there is a second season coming, we probably won't see it for another couple of years, because again, we have to have those writers' rooms up and buzzing and try to figure out the direction of where we would take the story, because there's no source material, and I'm concerned.
The way they've constructed this, it seems like they already have a pretty good vision for where they're going next, the way that this whole thing has been constructed. And I'll say that when it ends, and there'll be no spoilers, so don't get scared, anybody, but the way that it ends, it is both a satisfying first book in a franchise and also a complete wide open way forward.
Okay, so that was kind of my question. So okay, so that makes perfect sense.
I think what we're hearing is that even though the source material being the book Lovecraft Country comes to a conclusion, there's lots of sources out there that we control to find new directions for the show.
Yeah. So it's like, I know everybody's scared post Game of Thrones about what can happen, and I think the biggest problem with that is those guys didn't completely have their own ideas, and since they knew the ending and some of the waypoints of how to get to the ending, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why that went its own way. You kind of have to think about Lovecraft Country in the way that you guys look at the MCU. There is a bunch of source material, and they take certain things and they make certain movies off of it. But for the most part, they do their own thing, and it's been going for 23 parts that we've seen, and they already got like a whole movie we haven't seen and a whole TV show and stuff to continue it on. And while like a person like me knows how all this stuff can go, it's still different enough, and they can still do their own thing that will actually like impact the source material itself and change how people see it, i.e. Black Panther or even Thor.
All right, so Sherin, favorite character and why do you relate to this character?
I'm really bad at favorites. I don't really have like a singular favorite. I usually have a list of things that I like for different reasons.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. I'm a complex individual. One of the characters that I think it suits my taste really, really well, and what they've done with that character's arc is Ruby. There's two characters. There would be Hippolyta and Ruby. One, because Hippolyta represents the Afronaut, the person journeying through time and space. She is for lack of a better term, she is the science fiction character in the story. So that, and just the idea of Hippolyta training to be a warrior woman of Dahomey, which is a thing that I have been begging for a long time. We know that Viola Davis is going to make a film, but to do it in a speculative setting where it adds the ideas of magic and time travel to that is amazing. And Hippolyta being so self-possessed and so brilliant is really great for me. Ruby, on the other hand, is a well of really sharp, very like attenuated human emotion, and very much a person who is seeking love on her own terms and is uncompromising in those ways. And so, yeah, I'd have to say Hippolyta and Ruby do the most for me.
Julian?
It had to be George. Uncle George was great because Uncle George was like the perfect mentor character for Tick and Letty. Like, he's somebody that Tick could bounce ideas off of, but he also already knew a lot of different things. So even though Tick is coming out with the discovery, this, that, it's like, yeah, I kind of know what's going on with this. Like, to a point that, like, you had to get rid of him. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first Star Wars movies. Like, yo, you know too much. If you stay around, ain't no reason to have a story no more. And Courtney B. Vance is just a great actor, so it's like he brought a lot to that role.
Chuck?
Oh wow. I am a fan of Hippolyta as well. I think I really love her arc. And she's intelligent. I would like the way they developed her into this time traveling bad. I'm not going to say the word. I don't know. Can we cuss on this show? I don't know.
You cannot.
Okay. But she's a mother, and on top of that, caring for people. She's just Mother Earth, I guess. I don't know, but she's just a wonderful character to me.
Well, I fell in love. I mean, I think the character who nobody chose, but I think who broke my heart in episode 9 was Montrose. I mean, that whole arc of his character, and clearly he has a lot of secrets. And I think in the last show, in episode 9, what was episode 9 called?
Rewind 1921.
Rewind 1921. Thank you. I thought watching his acting in there, and I've always been a huge fan of Michael K. Williams, from back in the day when he was on The Wire and then later on Boardwalk Empire. But man, I didn't understand initially what was going on with him when we see him drinking beforehand. Even when they get out to the observatory, he's sitting there trying to get his courage up to relive one of the most painful aspects of his life. And I thought the way that they put that episode together with him sort of being a central character, I just thought that I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite episodes because that question is going to come up last. But it is in the top 4 of my favorite episodes, and I thought his performance was top notch, and I love watching Montrose. Outside of his sexuality, he reminds me of my daddy. That was Warner Gordon. Much like Atticus, like, why you beating on me, man? So I love the work of Michael K. Williams as Montrose. And I think he adds something to kind of like go where Julian was going. If George is there, there's a lot of the story that would already be told by George. But Montrose is another person who has a sense of what's going on, and much more of a sense than they even know. And we're finding that out up until through these first 9 weeks of the show. So Sherin, here comes the question, since you don't like lists. What was the top episode? What was your best episode that they produced up until, and not counting, don't count 10 because nobody's seen that other than you two, but through the first 9 weeks, which episode was your favorite?
There's a
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Yeah, there's a few episodes that I
or give me your top 3, Sherin. Give me your top 3.
I mean, the first 2 episodes are absolutely stellar. First of all, they deal with Lovecraft by dealing with Shoggoths, which is the creature that comes out of the ground. And they deal with it in a way that links Shoggoths to Lovecraft's racism, which I thought was brilliant. And so you're fighting Shoggoths, this white vampiric creature, like you would be fighting a white hood. That's dope. Then you get the Sundown Towns, which is a huge part of our history and the thing that we had to fight against. And you add that to horror. But then you go into Southern Gothic, which is an American Southern Gothic is a thing that we do. And they took it and made it wholly that, but gave them this black air that's got to reconcile his bloodlines. That's dope, okay? But then I don't like horror, so the Hunter House episode was not for me.
I love that episode. That was a good episode too.
It was a good episode. It's not for me because I don't like horror. Right. But when you get into The Strange Case, and you do have some body horror there, but it's also this idea of identity, which is extremely important to us. And also this idea of passing, but passing taken to a place that is a sci-fi place. So you're going from I have light skin to I have taken on a white woman's form, and she ain't even as hot as me, and y'all still like her more. Right? So that But then you get into one of my favorite episodes, which is I Am, because again, that's when they hop into like straight up, even the cover of it is straight up Bradbury territory to a large degree. But what they add to it is all of this Black woman historical power structure. And I'm going to call it Black woman historical power structure because that is amazing to even envision. The episode is called I Am, which is another term for God, which God told you can do what Jesus did if you believe. So she names herself anything.
Amen.
Dig that, son. This giant 7-foot Afro wearing woman from deep space who is teaching this child who is Hippolyta how to be in full awareness of her Blackness, how to travel through time in that and be uncompromised. Yo, it's dope. Okay, so those would be the episodes that stood out most for me. Rewind. And the Meet Me in Daegu episode, I'm a big fan of Korean drama, but some of that I wasn't sure of. I hate war stuff. If it's not MASH, I don't like it. If it's about war and it's not MASH, I don't like it. But I did like them. They're introducing the Gamiho because the spirit foxes are some of my favorite. I love kitsunes. I love gamihos. Actually, I love kitsunes. Gamihos are mean. I like kitsunes. But I love trickster characters. That's always been a big thing for me. So that episode is funny for me, but very important. But Meet Me in 1921 is vitally important because of the lancing of that pain that we carry from things like Rosewood and from the massacre at Tulsa and on and on and on throughout our history in America. So that has a lot of meaning to me. And then I will give you one teaser for the final episode, which is we're back in sci-fi occult territory, son. And it's a good time.
All right. So Julian, I still didn't get an answer. I got a preview. I got a preview of the entire season.
I shall not conform.
Oh, yeah, I see. I mean, so Julian,
only God can judge me.
Watch this, Julian. Can you answer the question and not take 7 minutes like Sherin just did to go through the entire?
I don't think you can say anything. You took 10 minutes to tell us how movie theaters aren't opening again, and that was a thing we all already knew. At least nobody knew which episodes were my favorite.
So do I get 3 or do I get 1?
You get all the time you need. He ain't the boss of you.
You get 3, Julian. Go ahead.
Live your life.
Sir, can I have my time back? Can I have my time back?
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. I'm speaking.
I like Strange Case because it's not only it's a flip on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It does play with identity and race and deals with the question, is white ice colder?
Yeah.
I like episode 4, which I forget the name, but it was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And I can hear
Stone
the
Cold.
music. Okay, yeah. You can just hear the theme music.
A History of Violence.
I was like, yes, right. You gonna climb up some stuff. You gotta believe and cross the bridge. That's right. You gonna do all these things I love from Indiana Jones 3. And the pilot is so strong. The pilot sets it off. It's like, oh, well, we've never seen nothing like this before. Where racism is more scary than the actual monsters. Like, we can get through monsters, but these white folks driving on us in that car and the police, woo! We might not make it through that. We can get through monsters. That's no big deal. But the police though, like, those are my 3 favorite. Even though the whole series is stellar, and I think every episode gets better from the next. Those are the ones that I would tell people to watch. Like, watch these ones.
Chuck?
Julian just stole my line because I was going to say the pilot was great, but each episode gets better and gets better and gets better. So, I mean, how do I pick one? I think the last episode where the rewind where Tick comes full circle, because in the beginning the whole thing with him and the bat. Come on, son. That's a full, and I don't know why they call it full circle when that was a rewind full circle right there. I was amazed at that scene. But yeah, from the beginning, the first episode, I think is my favorite one because it just is so intense and something you've never seen before, just laid out in front of your eyes. Just the beauty of Black adventure and strength and power and mysticism, and I mean it's just, I mean, monsters. So the first episode is my favorite of all of them, if I had to pick one. But like each episode is great. It just gets better and better and better. So I can't wait to see, because unlike the two others, I haven't seen the last episode to know exactly what's going to happen. But I got some ideas.
Hey.
Alrighty, so I'm just gonna go simply meet me in Daegu. I am in Jigabobo, and not in any particular order. Episodes 6, 7, and 8. I agree with all the points that have been made by all you guys. The pilot was strong and then kicked it off, and I do agree that every episode has progressively gotten better. I thought about A Strange Case, putting that in my top 3. Episode 5, which I thought that the whole identity aspect, I thought that was great. And I think for the most part, I think the only misstep which Misha Green was called out on was that happened in the history of violence where Montrose kills, what's the name of that character, Sherin? I know you know.
No, I don't remember their name.
Yeah,
But you know what character I'm talking about.
It's a very important indigenous character.
Right.
Because I don't know if there's a specific, but there is an idea in a lot of indigenous culture about the dual god.
Right.
You know, the god with every gender aspect, right? All in one. And that is a hugely important thing in indigenous indigenous, I don't want to say folklore and myth because that might not be the right term, but yes, in indigenous culture and storytelling. And so to slit that character's throat,
yeah, I
not
like
what
that.
we wanted to do, but I feel like, and Julian can say more about this, we were talking about it last night, but I feel like because there's an opening there, right? We don't, like, Montrose does the thing, but we never see the death happen.
Right.
So we don't know.
Or do we know there's an impact that was involved, and I think a lot of that got skirted over, and maybe it got skirted over because they had a meeting in the room because it became more about Montrose than about that character. So, but Julian, go ahead.
No, I just think, for me, I live by the practice of if there's no body, they're not dead. So while Misha Green has admitted to some failing on handling that character,
right,
and dealing with like how that happened, and more than focusing on Montrose and how that also plays into the whole thing of disposableness of indigenous people or gender fluid people. I think that the writers' room can write their way out. It's very. I ain't giving them no help. I ain't giving them no free coaching.
But they can do it.
They can do it. They can. They need help. They can find me. They can give me a check.
It's very easy.
but you can get out of that way easy.
They listen to our show. They're like, you're not gonna help us out, Julian? That's it.
Not without a bag. Not without a bag.
A whole and one from the cartoons with the $sign on it. That's right.
All right. Well,
I have this one question because I have one problem with the show, and I just saw a movie called Sylvie's Love. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, the new Tessa Thompson thing. Very a nice period piece, very romantic. They're strong with the music. I think the music part of Lovecraft Country has kind of set me off because there was one time when they were playing Cruel Summer from Bananarama.
That's right.
And I'm like, I can jam to the song, but does the song really fit what's happening? I mean, I know this.
It does.
It's a Cruel Summer.
Charles, let me tell you. Because I remember saying to Julian some part, I think it was episode 2 or 3. Julian might remember, I don't, but I said, we're about to get some time travel. Mm-hmm. They've been telling, that's, to me, Lovecraft Country, a part of why it works so well is that they foreshadow everything. If you pick up on the clues, and the thing is that you might pick up on the clues because you're a history buff. You might pick up on the clues because you're a sci-fi buff. You might pick up on the clues because you're a writer, and that's going to give you different clues, right?
Right.
But they all lead you somewhere when they all come together. And the music and the voiceover, which is usually future, they usually don't go back. They always go forward with the voiceover. Even with I think it's Naomi Wadler and her speech at the gun violence march.
Right.
It's all about what they're trying to tell you, I feel, is that we have somewhere to go with this, that our brilliance is proceeding, right? And so I love because when they use Cruel Summer, it is right before Bobo, who is also, you know, oh gosh, my brain just went.
Emmett Till.
Who is also Emmett Till. I was looking at him in the coffin and it messed my mind up. But Bobo, who is also Emmett Till, I think it's like right before he leaves and we know he's going to his death.
No,
right?
It was the episode of him passing and them in line to see
for
the viewing.
Yeah.
And it was
so every time they use a song, it is so perfectly attuned to that moment, but also reminding you that there's a future past this moment.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that's our time. But one more time, Sherin Nicole from Adobe Radio, Julian Lytle, who's also a frequent contributor of our show. We love having Julian on because, you know, he's the opposite of me. He's not animated, but he's knowledgeable as hell, and he's always looking for the bag. Charles Kirkland, it's always good to be with you. You see what Julian just did there? He's like, I do. So I'm glad to have you guys on as we celebrate National Book Month. It's just a kind way for us to just talk about cool movies we like based on books. So in case y'all haven't picked that up at home yet, that's what it is. As we tell you guys in closing, please see something good at the movies. Sherin Nicole, Julian Lytle, do you have a grade for the Lovecraft season since you're the only two who've seen the entire season? Give us a quick grade.
A.
Wow, that was quick. Sherin?
Solid B+.
You said a B+?
Yeah, A is like that's something I rarely give. B+.
All right, you got it. All right, so until next time, you guys take care, and we will be back next week with more of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. You guys enjoy your afternoon, and we're out.
Thanks, guys.